In today's video, we're going to learn how to build social sign-in with Wized and Xano. Today, we're going to use Google OAuth, but the same principles apply no matter if you're allowing your users to sign in with Facebook, LinkedIn, or even MySpace. All right, without any further ado, let's jump into Xano and let's learn how to set this up. When you're creating a new workspace, you'll be prompted to select which authentication providers you're using. Here, you can select Google, Facebook, Auth, LinkedIn, etc. Now, in my case, I already did that, so let's go to the dashboard and let's look at the next steps. I'm going to use this workspace. And now if I head over to Marketplace, Purchased, and here I can see my purchased extensions, and I'm going to select Google OAuth in this case. Now, when we open this extension, we see that this needs to be configured. So we're going to click here on Configure, and here we have to provide our Google OAuth client ID and our Google OAuth secret ID. Now, we're going to get those from Google Cloud Console. In Google Cloud Console, you can create a free account, and you're going to see this. Here, you need to go to APIs and Services, and then we're going to go to OAuth consent screen. Now, I already filled this out. Your screen is going to look a little bit different, but here's what you need to fill out. You need to add the app name, the user support email, which is either going to be your email or your client's email. And here under authorized domains, you can choose which domains can use this service. In this case, I'm going to write here webflow.io because this is where our staging domain is at. And if you would use a real project domain, then you would add it here below. And here I added developer contact information and I added my email. You can simply click Save and Continue. And that's it. Once you're ready, you can go to Credentials. And here you can create a new credential. We're going to select OAuth Client ID. Under Application Type, we're going to choose Web Application. And here we have to add the Authorized Redirect URI. Now, this is the URL to which you want to redirect the users when they sign in with Google. In this case, I'm going to add my login page. Note that it doesn't have to be your login page. This can also be any other page that you choose. Maybe you want to create a separate page that just says, we are redirecting you shortly, or you can use the login page like I'm using here. All right, next, you're going to hit Create. And you're going to see this pop-up where you can see your client ID and your client secret. I'm going to copy this to the clipboard and I'm going to head over to Xano. I'm going to click on Configure again, and here I'm going to paste in my client ID. And beneath, I'm going to paste my client secret. Cool. If I click Update Now, this is it. Now I can go to API. And here I can see that I have a separate API group for Google OAuth. So I'm going to expand this and I'm going to copy this API group base URL. All right, now let's head over to Wized. Now note that I'm not starting entirely from scratch here. I already configured signing in with email and password as well as access control rules. If you're interested on how to do that, we have a video on that as well. All right, let's look at the next steps. We're going to go to My Apps. And here, we're going to add a new app. In this case, I'm going to call it Google OAuth Xano. And under App, I'm going to select Xano. I'm going to paste in my API group base URL here. And I'm going to hit Close. And now we can start building our data in requests. Now, if we look at these API endpoints, it can be a little bit confusing. We have login, sign up, continue, and init, and you might be confused about all of that. So let me explain quickly. No matter which method you choose, whether that's login, sign up, or continue, you first have to run this OAuth Google init. And this endpoint is responsible for sending the user off to Google to log in, and then they're going to be redirected back to our page. So we have to run this request first before we sign the user up, log the user in, or allow the user to continue. Now, continue is basically a replacement for login and sign up. It's one endpoint that just handles both use cases. So in our case, we're going to use continue with Google. All right, like I said, first we have to start with Google init, so let's get to that. We can see it's a GET request, and we need to specify a redirect URI. Now, you might remember earlier we added a redirect URI in our Google console, and we need to make sure that we're sending the exact same redirect URI to Xano. So let's get back to Wized, and let's build this request. We're going to create a new request. In this case, I'm going to call it Google init. Under app, I'm going to select Google OAuth Xano. And under URL endpoint, I'm going to paste this in. Under method, I'm going to choose get. And now I'm going to send in the URL parameters which are needed. In this case, it's redirect underscore URI. And the value I'm going to set to the login page. So I'm going to hit preview, copy the URL, paste it in here. And now if we try to run this request, we're going to see that we get this auth URL. And this is the URL to which we need to redirect our users so that they can sign in with Google. And here under after request, we're going to choose navigate to, is conditional only if this request is successful. So status code needs to equal 200. And here under URL, we're going to paste in this URL over here. So let's expand our data field. Let's select this auth URL. And that's it. All right. Now we need to add an action that's going to trigger this request when a user clicks on this button. So we're going to go to actions. Here, I'm going to create a new action. I'm going to call it submit Google init. I'm going to apply it to this continue element. And under configuration, I'm going to choose onClick, perform request, Google init. Now, don't try to run this request in the Wized configurator. We need to go to our live site. Here, if we try to run this request, we're going to get redirected to Google, where we can sign in. And now, we're going to be redirected back. But you will notice one thing changed. Here in the URL, we have this code query parameter. Now, we're going to need to extract this to build our continue request. For now, we can just copy this value over here. And we're going to go to data in. And I'm simply going to duplicate this request because some of it is the same in the next request. So let's just duplicate it. I'm going to call it here Google continue. And here on the URL endpoint, I'm not going to write init, but continue. Now, if you're wondering where I'm getting this from, it's right here in Xano. It's this endpoint over here. And we can see here we need to specify a redirect URI, which is the same redirect URI like we had before, and we need to add a code. So here I'm going to add one more query parameter, which is code. And for now, I can just paste in the code that I had there. Now, we need to get this dynamically, but for now, I'm just going to show you how this endpoint works. So we can run this request over here, and we can see here that we sent this code that we received from Google over to Xano, and Xano sent us an authentication token. And we're going to store this token in a cookie, just like we do with regular sign-in. So under after request, we're just going to delete whatever we have here. We're going to choose set cookie. Here I already created a token cookie, but if you haven't created one, you can simply go to page data, general, and here you can create this token cookie. All right, let's go back to our request. And the value I'm going to set to the token value that we got in our request. Okay, now let's delete this code that we hard-coded right now, and let's replace this with our query parameter value. So we're going to go to page data, we're going to go under navigation, and we're going to add a new query parameter. Here, we're simply going to write code, because this is the query parameter that has our value. If we look here, we have this code parameter equals, and then we have our token. So now we can simply go here to our Google Continue request, and here under code, we're going to choose the value of our query parameter. So now we have to set up a trigger for our request. We can simply choose here variable condition, and we can see whether this query parameter of code has a value or not, meaning if it was set or not. So I'm just going to copy this over here. I'm going to paste it in here. And what this means is that if the user is going to the login page for the first time, like so, this request is not going to run. But if we have a code parameter here with any value, then this request is going to run. All right, and the last thing we want to do here is we want to redirect the user to our dashboard if they authenticated successfully. So here we're going to choose navigate to the dashboard page. And here we're going to tick this box is conditional. And under condition, we're going to check whether our Google Continue request was successful. So status code needs to equal 200. All right, cool. Now let's head over to the live site and let's see if everything is working as expected. So here we can click simply continue with Google. I'm going to select my account here. I'm going to get redirected back to the login page, and now I'm going to get redirected to the dashboard. All right, works just like we expected it. And that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video and if you would like to learn how to do the same thing with Facebook, then click on the link right over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!